It was mentioned that it took 12 years. Is that true?
Yeah, it did, yeah. It kind of, you know, like, you know, these things are like independent films. They just, they bounce along and, they, you know, they die and then they reanimate again, then they die and reanimate again. And in this case, originally we planned to shoot the whole thing in Scotland, and we couldn't get the money. So we got the money in Canada, and it's just the kind of, it's a Scottish mentality, you know. If you say in Scotland, I know. If you say we'll spend £1 million and shoot for 8 weeks, and we'll give you the £1 million back, and you know, straight away, and we'll bring another £3 million worth of business, and they don't hear that, they just hear the give us £1 million part. Whereas it's like kind of Canada has got quite a dynamic film industry, and it's a good place to shoot. So, but there's constraints on that as well. But yeah, it just kind of, and one of the things that Rob, he kind of really bonded with Adam, who was the lead actor in it. And he was adamant he didn't want to get any kind of really big names in it. He wanted to make it a kind of because as soon as you do a kind of club film and you've got a name actor in it, people say, no, that's the actor there. It's not an authentic kind of club kind of experience. So that was his strategy. It took a long time, but he stuck with it. And originally this was made into a stage play by a Canadian guy, and that was where the Canadian connection started off. And the stage play was really good. The stage play was actually kind of more like I wanted the book to be, you know. And so I was kind of, I had quite high hopes for the film that it would kind of capture that that whole thing about the kind of house music scene in the early 90s, you know, kind of the sort of the impromptu parties and the kind of grungy flats that you went back to, and all that, and all the kind of characters that were around in Edinburgh at the time that were involved in that scene. So so that was the kind of, well, that was my kind of hopes for the film. It's that kind of thing, you know, that you get a vibe with people, and you know, a kind of a volunteer is worth kind of 10 press men, you know. And it's like on the back of Trainspotting, you know, I could have sold it to somebody with a bit more money and a bit more kind of reach and all that. But Rob was kind of, he was making music videos for kind of house acts and sort of some of the DJs at the time, and he was kind of steeped in that culture, and I kind of I trusted somebody more from that kind of background than I would have done sort of a conventional filmmaker in a way. You know, he was kind of from that background. That was where he came from, and he was, you know, he was under no. He said, look, I'm a novice filmmaker, but I just want to make this film. Yeah, and he learned, you know, in that time it was a massive kind of learning curve for him, because he's working with Helen Mirren now. He's doing a film with her, you know, so he's kind of learned to be a producer. He learned to be a director and a screenwriter, all in that time, basically.
And again, you know, it was you know, better than I, but it was 3 stories, right? And he did the adaptation, not you.
Yes, no. I mean, he adapted. He adapted the. Him and his partner, this guy he was working with, adapted the story for the screen, and I kind of didn't have, you know, they gave it to me to have a look at, and I thought it needed something, but because I was kind of working on other stuff at the time, I didn't really have time to kind of to look at it. So I suggested they got in touch with a couple of Scottish guys, and one of the guys, Paul Lafferty, was the guy who did a rewrite on the screenplay. And he gave it that kind of, I suppose that peculiarly, you know, that put it back into that kind of Scottish context again, which was kind of lost in a way with a couple of Canadian guys doing the screenplay. So he kind of pulled it back into that frame again. We've just finished a film called Filth of one of my other books, which I was one of the producers on, and we kind of went, we got a bigger cast. We got James McAvoy in the lead, and Jim Broadbent, and you know, Jamie Bell. We have a really strong cast around that, and we kind of so we got a bigger budget, and we made it into quite a sort of well-sourced one. But I've got these 2 German guys that I've never heard of for doing another one of my books. If you like work, you love school. They're doing the main story from that, and they're doing this kind of this crazy European art house film. I like this. You know, there's just it's really to do. I mean, it's, you know, obviously money's an issue, but it's also to do with the passion that people have for it, and the way you think they understand the material and the empathy they bring to the material. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you're kind of trying to balance off.
All right, I'm going to ask you, it has nothing to do with this film, but you mentioned Filth, and it's a book that I read, and I guess I could say I enjoyed it. It's one of those books where you go, I can't read one more page of this. And of course you can. Wild Horses couldn't stop you from reading that next page. I don't know if any of you have read Filth, but it's about a detective, a police detective in Edinburgh, right?
Yeah.
And he, on the surface, appears to be a fairly nice guy and just goes through life and does his work. But his interior monologue is the vilest, lowest, most horrific thoughts you could imagine. And it's like I say, you read it, you go, no. And of course, we all have those thoughts. But you hate to, you don't admit it to yourself when you read this book, you go, Jesus Christ. But I'm just wondering, it reminds me of the killer inside me and the fact that on the surface, he's this kind of chucklehead. Your character's not a chucklehead, but he's this sort of benign, everyday guy that just walks through. But inside, so how did you handle the interior monologue? Because that's where all the real story takes place.
Yeah, I mean, he does a lot of manipulative things with people, and I mean, there's an absolutely, you know, we're in the edit speaking with it now, but it's an absolutely magnificent performance by James McAvoy. He's never been before in anything else he's done at the core of this, and he delivers this kind of, this really psychotic character, but he delivers them with such pathos as well that you kind of feel sorry for him too, and then you hate him and all that. So it's going to be a really remarkable performance, so kind of watch out for that one. So, but yeah, I mean, so much of it with that kind of thing depends on the central actor, because they're, you know, they're in every scene and they've got to really carry the film. So it's got to be somebody that who's acting the bastard, but you know they're actually quite a nice guy. So it's the, you know, it's the casting for that. It's just a bit.
The scene where they're trying to stage a party inside the church, is there like an origin to that, or?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, that was when I got involved in the house music scene. A pal of mine's, Kevin Williamson, and I, we decided we thought we'd run this kind of like post-rave party, and we had a number of venues. We had a church at one time, we had a place called the Unemployed Workers Centre in Broughton Street another time, and we just kind of found all these different spots, and churches are really good, obviously, for the, you know, the acoustics and stuff. And the whole thing about I don't think acid house parties are, they like, you know, they are like kind of, they were like the new churches basically, and these old factories, and you know, it was all kind of post-industrial buildings, like kind of churches, factories, buildings that were kind of rendered kind of defunct, you know, like the factory by post-industrialism, the church by the fact that nobody in Scotland or even goes to church anymore, so you got all these empty churches and the beautiful old buildings, so great places to put on raves.
Sir?
I know that you live in Chicago now, part-time, at least. Like, not want to know exactly where you live.
So,
where do you live in?
Sorry, Wrigleyville.
Wrigleyville, okay.
Yeah. And I prefer the socks to the Cubs.
That's a
fighting words here.
yeah. You prefer the Sox?
Yeah, yeah.
I grew up on the south side, so
You're a Sox fan, yeah.
if the Cubs just like all walk the plank off the top of the John Hancock building,
Yeah, that would be
that'd
fine.
great.
That would be good.
So anybody else? Any questions? Sir?
There was a shot towards the end when Lloyd is wandering in the city and he's walking down the hill, down the street, and it looked like the same street from the intro sequence of Train Spotting. Did I see that right?
It probably is, like, yeah, I mean, all the exteriors were shot at Edinburgh, and the guy, Juan, who was the DOP, just kind of, he went over with Adam to shoot a lot of these scenes, and they just walked around basically kind of shooting what they liked, you know, the actors, and they stuck it all together. I don't think Juan had seen Trainspotting or knew anything about it. So he's kind of shot Edinburgh in a very interesting way. It gives it that kind of, it's like a kind of Mexican narco corrido kind of version of Edinburgh. He does the angles of the buildings, the sloping of the buildings he does really well. And the skyline and the time-lapse stuff he does really nicely too. But what happened was when I saw the first cut of it, I kind of went, oh for fuck's sake, no, you've got to go back over there, you've got to shoot some of the, because they shot a lot of the central parts, and then they shot the interiors of where they were. I thought you've got to actually show the parts of the town that they live in, where they would actually be. So they went down to Leith and shot all these kind of grungy parts of Leith, you know, so you see them going into the nightclub that they would go into, you see them going into the tenements and the flats and stuff like that. And that was kind of, that was missing from the first cut of it. It was very much the touristy Edinburgh, the old cobbled streets and the castle and stuff like that. So I think you have to show that, but you have to show more where they actually live as well. You know? So they went across again and shot some more stuff.
Now the lead actress was Canadian, right?
Kristen, yeah, she was in Smallville, so she was a kind of a big TV star, and she hadn't done much film, and I think she's doing more film now. But she's probably the most kind of well known of all the cast really because of being Lana in Smallville. And I suppose maybe Dean McDermott, who's Tori Spelling, Aaron Spelling's daughter's husband. They have a reality TV show, you know, which I've never seen. But Dean was his family's Scottish. He was actually born in Scotland but left when he was young. So because we filmed in Canada, we were limited by the number of Scottish actors we can use. So we had Adam and Billy were the two main ones, and we had to get a kind of special dispensation for other ones. But most of them are Canadian or Scots who have immigrated to Canada from that kind of diaspora, or Canadians who are of Scottish kind of Scottish parents. So when we show it in Scotland, you get a really critical reaction to the accents. And what the fuck is this? So that sense to, I mean, for everybody else, you show it down in England, that's just Scots being Scots like. But for everybody else, it's fine. But for Scots, it's like kind of it's that kind of groundskeeper bullying type voices. Everybody thinks we speak like we don't.